Yesterday was an OTA. Today is the top 10 decks in Marvel Snap to end the Zombie Scarlet Witch season after the OTA. We're going to kick it off with the S tier. Welcome to Snap Judgments. I'm Glazer, one of the more trusted Marvel Snap content creators. I know all the top players. I get most of the top decks. Make sure you keep it here if you want them before anyone else. Let's kick it off right now with what I think is the very best deck in the game. This is the standard move list that is sort of everywhere or should be played a lot more right now. So this deck was very played after the last OTA. Everyone played a lot of Mercury for a while, and then everyone stopped playing Mercury because everyone stopped playing this deck. Well, the most recent OTA nerfed Mercury. I think Mercury is nearly unplayable. I think there's one where she's still a playable card. That deck is probably not good enough or prominent enough to stop this from being the best deck. A lot of players on the North American server sort of have a gentleman's agreement, gentle person's agreement, to not play this list because it is just seen as that OP. I had two of the top players in the world, Cougar and Butt, on the podcast last week ranking cards, and they had this is the best deck, Human Torch, Juggernaut, Sparky, Madam Web as some of the top 10 cards in Marvel Snap. This deck's best counter card was just nerfed out of the meta. This is the deck to play. It's very easy to win with this list. Human Torch is meant to win one lane. He is stupidly huge. And to win another lane, you have multiple possibilities. You can win with Dagger, who's huge. Craven, who's huge. Heimdall for a mix-up, and then just decent statted extra cards. Heimdall at 10, Cloak at 4, Hellion at 8, and then the milder scalers of Dagger and Craven. That's often enough to win a lane. You also have the best cheap lane winner in the game in Juggernaut, the 4/5 that you can play at the end of the game to win when you don't want to Heimdall. When you combine all of this, what you have is, I think, clearly the best deck. In terms of playing this deck, the strategy is reasonably simple. Get out a Human Torch and something else that has some power, whether that be Craven or Dagger. On turn 5, you play either Hellion or Cloak on the far right location. Try and keep everything to the left and center location earlier. You then move certain cards to the right location on turn 5 into turn 6, and then you either play Heimdall or you play Juggernaut, and in either case, you win the game. It is that simple. This is the best deck. This is the class of Marvel Snap. This has been a version of this has been among the top 3 best decks in Marvel Snap, in my opinion, for gosh, a year-ish now since Madam Web came out. Play this list. If you want to win a lot of games of Marvel Snap, play this list. Learn it. It's going to take you some time, but play it. I'm going to be saying this a lot lately. I'm sorry if you get sick of hearing it. I can't do a tier list of the best decks and not start with the best deck. From here, we're going to go with the best deck if people refuse to play move. We covered this deck in great detail in yesterday's video. This is an Ika list. So we had Sizer's 2654. Now we have Ika. Sizer is the best player at Marvel Snap, but he plays largely what he thinks the best deck is. He's not the person to experiment. If you want experimentation, you want Ika_MTS on Twitch. Ika plays almost every day. He is the creator of so many top decks, it's utterly absurd. He created the Darkhawk Supergiant list that was everywhere recently. He created this list, which is one of the best lists. He's oh god, I can't even. Just like if you've seen a top list, a bunch of the top Scream lists were Ika creations. If you've seen a top list, it's a fair chance it came from Ika. It's a fair chance you've played his decks. When he says he's cooked, he's changed the meta. He has a 70% win rate at high infinite with this list. I think this list is utterly disgusting. This is the best Zombie Scarlet Witch list for several reasons. It doesn't bother with a ton of tech. It's got Cosmic Ghost Rider as its only real tech piece, although its immunity to magic because of Merlin and Nico is very powerful, as is its immunity to energy cheat through running Mobius. A lot of decks, a lot of this type of deck in particular, are trying to combo off with cards like Absorbing Man on the last turn. You've got Alive to counter that. Also, in addition to all of that, you have Pixie for crazy high rolls. Sometimes you do things like get a 1-cost zombie giant man that you can then play with multiple other cards and steal the game that way. Cosmic Ghost Rider is at this exact moment the single best, bar none, tech card in the game. I don't think that's going to change. Once in a while, you'll be able to play a Luna Snow into a Cosmic Ghost Rider and hit a Human Torch. When you do that, the game is over. You've won. You can snap, or hopefully snap before, but you have won. Enjoy yourself. Zombie Scarlet Witch is the best power package in the game. Move isn't really a package, Move is a whole deck, right? So if you want a package of cards that creates the most power, you want the Hunger, Zombie Scarlet Witch, and Zombie Giant Man, and then you want one more Horde card. Ideally, Zombie Mr. Fantastic, Zombie Sentry will be fine. It is the best little package that you can put in a deck because it's so easy to run with Merlin, to run with Kitty Pryde, to run with all these smaller cards in order to really take advantage of and make a huge zombie horde. This is, again, the class of the meta. Nothing that changed yesterday hurts this deck. Play it, live it, love it. You're going to win so many games of Snap. That's the end of the S tier. I think S tier is probably really just the move deck, but I'm not convinced people are going to play the move deck, so I have this in the same tier until people play the move deck and knock everything out. We're gonna get to the B tier, the A tier momentarily, but first I want to tell you that you can win a not Viv Vision, wrong month, a Zombie Scarlet Witch on this very video. All I have to do is sub, like, and comment. I'll tell you what comment to leave later this video. We're giving away 2 more Zombie Scarlet Witches this week. I'll announce them for you tomorrow, right after Halloween, because I got to take my son trick or treating. All right, the A tier. A is for Arishem. Arishem doesn't make it. Arishem has actually fallen off just enough to be off the list. It's somewhere between the 10th and 15th best deck. So I had to include Bounce Move. Bounce Move was utterly wrecked faced by Mercury. Mercury was so obnoxious for Bounce Move. Bounce Move is gone. There's not a lot of Cosmo in the meta. This deck is immune to most of the tech people are playing. It doesn't care about Cosmic Ghost Rider because it's thrown Prio, and so that doesn't matter. It's not in love with Eliath, but Eliath was just nerfed. So we should be seeing a reasonable amount less Eliath, except for that one last deck. If all of that ends up the case, this is right back to being a top deck. This is one of the harder decks to play, and the hardest deck to play, I think, in the video. But once you're good with it, you can feel absolutely unbeatable. Part of what makes this deck so good is because it gets so big, because it can move Human Torch, bounce everything, move Human Torch again, move Human Torch, frigate it, get it second Human Torch. It's really good into the better version of the move deck, which really needs to use Juggernaut and Cosmo to beat this. If it can't use Juggernaut and Cosmo, this could easily end up in the S tier. The question remains, however, will anyone play this? If people don't play the easier to play tier 1 move list, are people going to play the tier 1.5 harder to play move list? That's what's preventing it from being S tier, although I think if you're good with this list, you can easily take this and absolutely crush with it. Proof? Cougar took this onto ladder last night or the night before. Time is a flat circle. Cougar took this onto ladder and immediately dominated. Immediately went on like an 80% win rate heater. This list is, even before the changes, completely insane, and with no Mercury, there's almost no reason not to play this list. The hell? I think you should play one of these two. All right, next up, we've got Rarmenko's Sugi Skull. I don't remember who actually made this version. It showed up a lot in the most recent Golden Gauntlet and had 3 top 20 finishes. Before the OTA, I thought the best version of this list was the Darkhawk list. I know that wasn't a popular take among top players, but I thought the disruption available in the Darkhawk package made it better than the Red Skull package. That has changed. The Darkhawk package ran the nerfed Black Cat and the Supergiant and the Eliath and everything else. And when you combine all those loss of points, I think this version is better. This version too lost 2 points. It lost a point off Sauron, it lost a point off Supergiant. I just think that it matters less when you're dropping giant 10 power idiots versus when you're not. This is a really good home for tech cards, Shadow King and Red Guardian. If you wanted to really fit Mercury in here, I bet you could. There's a lot of ongoing. Almost every deck has at least one key ongoing card, whether it be Madam Web, whether it be later on Victoria Hand or something else or a null. So Enchantress is incredibly strong. Being able to use Enchantress offensively and defensively, Red Skull is great. Supergiant is a card that move decks can play around and beat, but they have to read that it's coming and they have to figure out exactly what you're doing, whether it be Negasonic or Shadow King, Red Guardian, whatever. That can make it really hard for move decks to beat this. I expect this to see less play because it again, Sauron and Supergiant were both nerfed, and losing 2 points in Marvel Snap, despite what people think, is a lot. I think this deck is among the best positioned decks ever to just withstand that, to sort of absorb it and eat it, because it has so much power and so much tech. A lot of power decks right now, a lot of decks right now are a power package and a tech package. And I still think the best tech card around for you to be running is Supergiant. And because of that, I think this is a great deck. Plus, most decks can't fit in this many pieces of tech. Red Guardian, Shadow King, Negasonic, Supergiant, Enchantress. 5 pieces of tech is like the old tech soup days. Nothing else, I believe this video is going to even come close to that. I think we're going to top out at 3 in most other decks. We're occasionally going to hit 4. So this is a lot of points with the best tech in the game. So I think this has to still be A tier. People are again going to sleep on it and stop playing it. You should not be one. Finally, we have Clog. We can fill this list basically with Move and then a bunch of Zombie Scarlet Witch decks. Zombie Scarlet Witch, Hunger, Zombie Giant Man is a package with a lot of power. This is the list that I think can still run Mercury because it basically chooses when it needs to run Mercury. If it decides to run Mercury, it can win the game with it thanks to Cannibal. If it doesn't need Mercury, it never has to play the card. Plus, Mercury being a mover is pretty decent with Zombie Scarlet Witch. Perhaps Mercury is now wrong and we want to run an extra 2 drop. That's fine, and that's a perfectly viable decision. If that 2 drop is the case, I would start with Kate Bishop because Kate Bishop has Acid Arrow in her kit. Basically, Zombie Scarlet Witch gives you a point package to play with your Clog. Decks are very rarely prepared for Clog, and this is very good. This is really, really solid into the move list, where who really hate to be clogged up. The move Bounce can beat this, but the classic move very much does not like to deal with this thing. Daredevil lets you get the right read all the time, and you have a points package to go with your free win lane from Clog. It's really, really not a complicated list. I think it's very strong. I think the OTA probably, despite the Mercury nerf, made this stronger as it really feeds into the decks that this feeds on. The caveat to that is this deck does not like Destroy and Merlin, and even though Destroy was nerfed, I still expect a ton of Destroy. And even though Merlin is not the most prominent card, I think Merlin's probably a top 5 to 10 card, especially when paired with Werewolf by Night. And given that you can pair those two cards so easily, I think Merlin, as a way to just be like, oh, I don't care about your clock, I'm going to turn it into something that benefits me, makes this a significantly worse deck. I still think it's A tier because it's so good against into S tier, but it's a step below. I think it's closer to B than it is to S. Hey, let's get to that B tier, but before we do, please hit a sub, like, and comment. Don't be a zombie. Help us beat the machines. The last 2 months of Marvel Snap content. Um, let us climb the ranks of Marvel Snap creators like a spider for the next season as we try to beat the algorithm and give you the best Marvel Snap content. Hit a sub, hit a like, hit a comment, and help us out, my dear, dear friends. Next up, we got the B tier. B for Bullseye, who's also not in B tier. I think Bullseye's actually kind of gone. All right, C3 has to be here. So top players would have this even higher. They would have it in A or even S. I think that the OTA making move better, move just goes over the top of this and does not care. I think the OTA making move better pulls this down a fairly severe notch. However, there's almost nothing better in Marvel Snap at making a bunch of points if the locations don't blow this up. And Luke is cut, so locations can totally blow this up. We just have Scarlet Witch to handle locations. If the locations don't blow this up, this is a ton of points. It's really not like much more complicated than that. You get lot points if you end up playing this deck. You also end up with a decent amount of tech, and because I said I was going to, let's count the tech. Killmonger, Cosmo, Scarlet Witch. We can fit a surprisingly good Cobra. If you haven't played Cobra lately, Cobra's having a real moment right now. Cobra wrecks zombies in absolutely hilarious fashion. Um, Also really good against all the demons that are everywhere, so keep an eye out on Cobra, an actual sleeper card. But this deck's job is to put up points. You want to play Cerebro and then Bastion. You want to play Cerebro and then Mystique. And if you can do either of those, you're giving +6 to your board. You've got a bunch of 9 power cards and you win. It ain't brain surgery. I don't know what else to say. This is the easiest thing in the world to play. When you are playing solitaire generally with this list, you are winning or losing, usually based on what locations pop up and whether you drew well. If that sounds good to you, then play this list and you're going to rock with it. I'm incredibly bored of Cerebro, but a version of Cerebro belongs on this list as long as Cerebro gives +3. +3 is an insanely high amount. Next up, we got Vicky Hand. I don't want Vicky Hand to be here. I had like 6 interesting lists that I almost put in over Vicky Hand, but then I couldn't not put in Victoria Hand because Victoria Hand does this thing where that Quake spot, this Rogue spot, that Shadow King spot, that's 3 tech spots that can sort of be anything. Bastion can be Moon Girl or Bastion. It's fine either way. And then because it has that, it has tech, and because it has a way to double its power of cards, it often ends up winning. You get a little bit of unpredictability from Iron Patriot, but outside of that, this is basically a tech and points deck. If you get enough hoods, you're really hard to beat. It's not brain surgery. You can throw a Merlin Werewolf in if you want to run a little less tech. That would be Quake and Rogue spots. Um, I don't know. Victoria Hand is boring. It's been the same deck for. I mean, I guess Bastion's in it, but that could easily be Moon Girl. It's been the same deck for a billion years now since Misery came out? Question mark. It's for quite a long time. This has been the exact same list. I think it's a great list, right? But it's a boring list. It is, however, a list that you could absolutely compete with anything with. A lot of games, though, are going to come down to did you draw the right deck or do you have the right deck in your deck for what the opponent's doing? We've got a Ika has a super giant version, not super giant, excuse me, a Cosmic Ghost Rider version of this. Like, feel free to mix and match tech as you choose. There's 7 million versions of this, but Victoria Hand's versatility is often that there are 7 million versions, so it's really hard to know what to play against, and it's relatively easy to throw Prio until you start dropping Vicky hands, which means your tech gets extra value. I think this is a really good list. It's so boring at this point, but what are you going to do? Next up, we got Fudge going. This is another like older list. This list has existed since I mean, since Captain Carter was buffed, really, right? Since Carter was buffed to a 3/2. I know Stardust is in it, but I'm not 100% sure Stardust is better than Cosmo. You can look through the list and see how much more Cosmo would do. This list just puts up points. This is well, the first of our three straight just put up a bajillion points list. Captain Carter, Moonstone, Captain America, Mr. Fantastic with Moonstone, Iron Man, and Mystique. These are just all big points. Spectrum is like a 619. Goliath is like a 210. All of this deck is points. There's just enough Enchantress to stop this, and Move can go over the top. Move like doesn't actually care. Move is relatively safe at going over the top unless you get some crazy Moonstone Carter or Iron Man Mystique stuff going. Because of that, and by the way, that's why I think Move might just be better off instead of Juggernaut running Cosmic Ghost Rider. But either which way, and if not for that, I think this is easily an S tier deck. But I do think that enough of the best stuff sort of plays around this. That Enchantress is present, just present enough. That Rogue is just present enough that if they're used well, they not only lose you games, they lose you games for big cubes. Keeps this down in B tier. But I do think this is an incredibly powerful list. If I wanted something simple to climb with, it would be this or Cerebro. Before we go forward, I know people hate when I do this. Sorry. You can get one legendary and three epics if you want to start raid on my account. I'm doing raid videos here. People are going to talk trash. It's a meme. I've heard it all before. I'm having so much fun. I got 3 Ninja Turtles and Shredder this season. I didn't get Donatello, damn it. And you can see that I tried, but I didn't get Donatello. I unlocked a bunch of new content. I'm having so much fun. I'm playing raid like honestly probably too much right now. I'm letting it run tournaments while I'm in work and just I'm using my gems for energy and I'm having the best time. If you'd like to join me, we've got alliances and everything else and you get $200 worth of free stuff. Please check it out. And if it's not for you, hey, no harm, no foul. But if you want to support the channel for free, there is literally no better way than to like just download Raid and at least check out the demo. All right, our last two decks are Discard and Destroy. I'm just going to spoil it. They're Discard and Destroy. So everyone was playing Destroy for a while, and everyone forgot about Discard. I'm not sure which is better. I think probably with the X23 nerf, I lean toward Discard. Discard is higher variance than Destroy. Destroy is more consistent, but I think Discard wins more games because it just gets fairly big. Discard, however, is also a reasonably expensive deck. We are seeing Zombie Power Man Series 4, Colonel America Series 5, Corvus Glaive Series 4, Malekith Series 5, Proxima Series 5, Khonshu Series 5. It's an expensive list. This went from one of the cheapest budget lists in the game to one of the most expensive ones, as they just released a whole bunch of new cards for it over the last like 6 to 8 months. Fine. At the end of Scorn's a Series 5. So at the end of the day, though, this list puts up a ton of power, and if you have access to it, you should strongly consider playing it. There's like 3 swing spots. You can run Gambit, Dracula, Swarm, pick 2 of 3, and you're good to go. You can throw Lady Sif in over Gambit if you're so inclined. Lady Sif is pretty damn good with the Khonshu thing that's happening in this list if you want to do that. But this list is just points, man. Like the whole thing this list does is say I've got all these points cards. Morbius is an insane scaler, right? Colonel America is an insane scaler. Dracula's an insane scaler. Apocalypse gets big. Khonshu brings back something at 12. Scorn grows and Gambit blows your stuff opponent's stuff up. Malekith gives you a free card, which means it can play for anything from like a 4/6 to like a 4/13, thanks to Colonel America. It's a gorgeous list. It's insanely good. I'm not seeing it nearly as much as I probably should, given how good it is. I think Cosmic Ghost Rider being pretty bad for this list has kept it in check and keeps it in B tier. But like, don't sleep on Discard Dracula, whether you want to run the Swarm version or the Dracula version. Have fun. Destroy lost like 5 or 6 power. And like you're like, how? X23 lost 1 power. That's dumb. I said this yesterday in the OTA video, but I'm going to reiterate it here because it's not analysis I'm hearing a lot everywhere. X23 losing 1 power means if you destroyed it 3 times, that's -3 power on null plus the -1 on the X23. That's -4. If you venomed it, now it's -5. And that's a real loss of power for this deck. However, it has gotten more than enough power back right now between running Moira X and Headpool. And you don't need both. Wolverine could easily replace one. But between running Moira X and Headpool, we are completely freaking fine without that one X23 power. But this is about as much power as a deck can afford to lose and still be viable. I think it's worse. I think it's still great. When it goes off and goes over the top, it's still going to feel completely insane. It loses to Move. Move has Cosmo. Move has Juggernaut. Move has Human Torch, which can get bigger than some of the biggest nulls. It just does. Outside of that, though, this should have some serious game into basically everything else. There's enough tech around that can give it a problem, but this has been a top deck. I can see this continuing to be a top deck. If you want to play Destroy, have fun. Again, I can't put a thing that lost 5 points of output higher than fifth, but this did lose 5 points of output, and the tech that people are running should be better against it than it was yesterday, so it has fallen a tier. It would have been A tier yesterday. But I still think it's a deck that has to be mentioned here, and that is deck number 10. Thanks for watching the top 10 decks. Come check me out on stream. I should be streaming tomorrow morning at twitch.tv/pulseglazer. I got to record a podcast, so I got to do that. And our season pass question is real simple. What's the very best deck I missed? We have no honorable mentions here today. We're just going to do this. There's no Zombie Galacti. Zombie Galacti is atrocious and abysmal. My serious advice is if you bought it, want to do weekend missions, is throw it in Arishem and hope you don't draw it. It is one of the worst cards they've released and desperately needs a buff. But the simple question is, what is the best deck that should be on this list in the of the top 10 decks of Marvel Snap that isn't? I wish this was a more new deck heavy video this week, and maybe there's something new that I'm just missing. Maybe like Phoenix Force is insane with Nakia or something, or Penny. But like, I honestly think this OTA didn't shake things up enough. It just really empowered the things that were good and kicked a few things that would have been on the list out of the meta. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you tomorrow for another Snap Take. Happy Halloween, and thanks for watching. Peace.